Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be subtracting mixed numbers. Let's look at our first example here. We have 3 1/2 minus 1 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite. So notice here we have 1/2 minus 1/4. Because my denominators are not the same, then we do need to find a common denominator before we subtract. So I'm going to come here. We have 1/2 minus 1/4. I'm going to list the multiples for my 2 and then the multiples for my 4. The least common multiple between my 2 and my 4 is going to be the number 4. So that means I need to get 4 in my denominator so that we can subtract. So I need to get a 4 here and then a 4 here. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 2. And then for my 4, I already have 4 in my denominator, so you can just multiply by 1 or just leave it alone because you already have 4 in your denominator. So now we're going to multiply. 2 times 1, this is going to be 2. 2 times 2, that's 4. We got that. 1 times 1, this is 1. And then 4 times 1 is 4. We also have that. So now we have 2/4 minus 1/4. Now that my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and just subtract my numerator. So my numerator is going to be 1, and then my denominator is going to stay the same as 4. So when we subtract 1/2 minus 1/4, you're going to get 1/4 here. And then when we subtract our whole numbers, so 3 minus 1, this is going to equal 2. So your final answer here is 2 1/4. So let's say you didn't solve it like this. Let's say you wanted to write everything out. If it's easier to expand your numbers and your fractions. 3 minus 1, I'm grouping my whole numbers together, and then I'm now going to group my fractions together. Plus 1/2 minus 1/4. So now I'm going to solve this. 3 minus 1, this is going to equal 2. And then you're going to be left with 1/2 minus 1/4. And when you are solving this, 1/2 minus 1/4, we just did that. So your answer here is going to be 2 plus your 1/4, and you'll be left with 2 1/4. And another way that you can write this, so you can write it like this if you were to expand your fractions and your whole numbers, or you can do it like this. You're going to get 3 plus 1/2 minus 1 minus 1/4. So if you were to write it out like this, then this is what you would get, and you can just solve it from here. And notice here you have a 3, a positive 3, which is what we have here. Then you have a positive 1/2, positive 1/2. Then you have a negative 1, and you have a negative 1 here. And then you have a negative 1/4, you have a negative 1/4 here. So these are two separate ways. If you want to expand, this is how it would look. And then you'll do the same thing. You're going to subtract 3 minus 1. This is going to equal 2. And then you'll be left with 1/2 minus 1/4. And we solved it here. So you'll get 2 1/4 is what you'll also get as well. 5 3/4 minus 2 1/8. So let's go ahead and rewrite. So I have 3/4 minus 1/8. Notice here my denominators are not the same. Since my denominators are not the same, then we do need to find a common denominator. And we're going to find a common denominator by listing the multiples for my 4 and my 8. So 4, we have 4, 8, 12, and 16. And then my 8, we have 8, 16, 24, and 32. And I'll stop there for now. And now by looking at the 2, the least common multiple between the 2 is going to be the number 8. So that means I need to get 8 in my denominator so that we can subtract. So what number times my 4 is going to give me 8 in my denominator? That's going to be 1, 2. Multiply top and bottom here by the number 2. And then for my 8, I already have 8 in my denominator, so you can just multiply top and bottom by 1. Or just leave it alone because we already have 8 in my denominator. Now we're going to multiply. So 2 times 3, this is going to equal 6. 2 times 4, that's 8. 1 times 1, this is going to equal 1. And then 8 times 1, this is 8. So now my denominators are the same. I'm going to subtract my numerator. So 6 minus 1, this is going to be 5, and that's going to be over 8. I cannot simplify any further my 5 over 8, so this is my answer here when I subtract my fractions. So I'm going to put 5 over 8 here. And then when I subtract my whole numbers, so 5 minus 2, this is going to equal 3. Since I cannot simplify any further, your final answer here is 3 and 5/8. So now let's see if you were to expand everything out and write it out. So you can do 5 minus 2. I'm grouping my whole numbers together. And then you're also going to do plus 3 over 4 minus 1 over 8. So 5 minus 2, this is going to equal 3. And then you have 3 over 4 minus 1 over 8, which is what we solved here. So you're going to get 5 over 8 here for that fraction. And then when you add the 2, you're going to get 3 and 5/8. We're going to try one more. So let's say you didn't do what I did. Let's say you wrote it out exactly how you see it. You're going to get 5 plus 3 over 4 minus 2 minus 1 over 8. And notice you'll get the same thing here. So 5 minus 2, this is 3. And then 3 over 4 minus 1 over 8, this is going to give you 5 over 8. And when you add the 2 together, you combine your 3 and your 5 over 8, then you're going to get 3 and 5/8 as well. Let's look at this example here. So I'm going to rewrite. So I have 1 over 2 minus my 2 over 5. My denominators are not the same. So my denominators are not the same. That means we need to find a common denominator. The multiples of my 2 and my 5. The least common multiple between the two is going to be the number 10. So that means I need to get 10 in my denominator. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's going to give me 10 in my denominator. And then here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, because that's going to give me 10 in my denominator. Now we're going to multiply. So we have 5 times 1, this is 5. And then 2 times 2, this is 4. And then notice my denominators, we have 5 times 2, which is 10. So this is perfect. This is what we're looking for. And then now my denominators are the same. I can just go ahead and subtract my numerator. So 5 minus 4, this is going to equal 1, and that's going to be over 10. So your fraction here, your answer here is 1 over 10. And then when I subtract my whole numbers, 9 minus 2, this is going to equal 7. So your final answer here is 7 and 1/10. So let's say you wanted to expand everything out. 9 minus 2 plus 1 over 2 minus 2 over 5. And you'll get the same thing. So 9 minus 2, this is going to equal 7. And then you have 1 over 2 minus 2 over 5. We just did that. We subtract everything and we got plus 1 over 10. And then when you combine everything, you're going to get 7 and 1/10 as your final answer here. And then let's say you don't write it the way I do. Let's say you expand it the other way. So let's say you did 9 plus 1 over 2 minus 2 minus 2 over 5. So you're going to do 9 minus 2. This is going to equal 7. And then you have 1 over 2 minus your 2 over 5. That's also going to give you 1 over 10. And when you combine everything as well, you're also going to get 7 and 1/10. Let's look at this example here. I went ahead and rewrote my problem so that we can see it a little better. And you have 7 over 9 here minus 1 over 9. So since my denominators are the same, which is perfect, then I can go ahead and just subtract my numerator. So we have 7 over 9 minus 1 over 9. My denominators are the same, so my numerator is going to be 6, and my denominator is going to stay as 9. By looking at this example, though, I can simplify my 6 over 9 because the number 3 goes into both. So 6 divided by 3, and then 9 divided by 3. So your numerator, you're going to get 2, and then your denominator, you're going to get 3. So your answer here is going to be 2 over 3 for my fractions. And then for my whole numbers, you have 5 minus 3. This is going to equal 2. And since I cannot simplify any further, your final answer here is 2 and 2/3. So let's see if we expand. So 5 minus 3 plus 7 over 9 minus 1 over 9. So 5 minus 3, this is going to equal 2. And then plus 7 over 9 minus 1 over 9, this is going to equal 6 over 9. And you're going to get here 2 and 6 ninths. But when you simplify your 6 over 9, you're going to get 2 over 3. So you're going to get 2 and 2/3. Because we simplified here with my 3 and with my 3. All right, and let's say you don't like that way. Let's say you want to do 5 plus 7 over 9 minus 3 minus 1 over 9. So we'll do the same thing. 5 minus 3, this is 2. And then you have plus 7 over 9 minus 1 over 9. And when you add this, you're going to get 2 plus 6 over 9. And it takes you back to what we have here. When you combine that, you're going to get 2 and 6 ninths. And then when you simplify, you're going to get 2 and 2/3 as well. Let's look at this example here. So notice if I look at my fractions, notice that my fractions, my 2 over 3 minus my 5/12, notice that my denominators are not the same, right? So if my denominators are not the same, then you need to find a common denominator. So the least common multiples between the two is going to be the number 12. So that means I need to get 12 in my denominator so that we can subtract. For my 2 over 3, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that's going to give me 12 in my denominator. For my 5 over 12 here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, or you can just leave it alone. 4 times 2, this is going to equal 8. And then 5 times 1, this is going to equal 5. So when I subtract 8 over 12 minus 5 over 12, you're going to get 3 in your numerator, and then your denominator, you're going to get 12. However, by looking at this example here, I can simplify because the number 3 goes into both my 3 and my 12. So 3 up here, 3 down here. I'm going to simplify again. 3 divided by 3 is going to equal 1. And then 12 divided by 3 is going to equal 4. So your answer here is going to be 1 over 4. And then you're going to subtract your whole numbers. So 3 minus 1 is going to equal 2. So your final answer here is 2 and 1/4. If you were to expand, 3 minus 1 plus 2 over 3 minus 5 over 12. And remember what I'm doing here when I expand is I am keeping my whole numbers together and my fractions together. You do not have to do that. You can also expand using the other way as well. And I'll show you that in 1 second. So 3 minus 1, this is 2. And then you have plus 2 over 3 minus 5 over 12. And then you're going to get 2 plus 1 over 4. And then you're going to get 2 and 1/4 here as your answer. So now, let's say you didn't want to expand it like that. Let's say if you choose to expand like this, 3 plus 2 over 3 minus 1 minus 5 over 12. All right, so 3 minus 1, this is 2. And then you have plus 2 over 3 minus your 5 over 12. And when you solve the fraction here, you're going to get 2 plus 1 over 4 again. And then you're going to be left with 2 and 1/4. And that is your final answer as well. Let's look at this example here. Notice we have 1 over 10 minus 9 over 10. So we have 1 over 10 minus 9 over 10. Now, by looking at this example here, notice that my 9 over 10 is larger than my 1 over 10. So if I already have 1/10 and I'm trying to take 9/10 from that, that's not going to be able to work. So I'm going to borrow from my whole number. So I'm going to borrow from my 8. This is going to become 7. And since I borrowed from my whole number, I'm going to add my 10 over 10 here. Remember that 10 over 10 equals 1. So all I did here is I borrowed and I rewrote my fraction. So this is my whole number here, took 1 from here, and I'm going to add 10/10 to what I have here. So now you're going to get 7/11 in my numerator minus 2 and 9/10. Now we can subtract. So now that my denominators are the same, When you remove this, so we have 11 over 10 minus 9 over 10. 11 minus 9, this is going to equal 2, and that's going to be over 10. By looking at this example, I can simplify my 2 over 10 by the number 2. So my numerator, you're going to get 1, and your denominator, you're going to get 5. So your answer here is going to be 1 over 5. And then when you subtract 7 minus 2, this is going to equal 5. So your final answer here is 5 and 1/5. So now let's say you wanted to expand this mixed number here. So if you were to expand, you're going to get 8 minus 2 plus 1 over 10, and then minus 9 over 10. So now I'm going to rewrite this whole number just like we did here on this side. So I'm going to rewrite this as 7 plus 10 over 10. And the reason I am rewriting this whole number is because we cannot subtract 9/10 from 1/10. So what I'm going to do is I am going to borrow from my whole number and rewrite my fraction. So now we have minus 2, which is here, and then plus 1 over 10, and then minus 9 over 10. So now we have 7 minus 2. This is going to equal 5. And then we have 10 over 10 plus 1 over 10 minus 9 over 10. So we have 10 over 10 plus 1 over 10, and then minus 9 over 10. So we have 5 plus 10 plus 1. This is 11, because since my denominators are the same, I can just go from left to right. So 10 plus 1 is 11 over 10. And then we're going to do 11 over 10 minus 9 over 10. So you have 5 plus 2 over 10. And when you combine this, you're going to get 5 and 2/10. However, when you are simplifying that 2/10, you're going to get 5 and 1/5. Let's look at this example here. So first, notice that my fractions, my denominators are not the same. Since my denominators are not the same, then I do need to find a common denominator. List the multiples for my 3 and my 6. And the least common multiple between the two is going to be the number 6. So that means I need to get 6 in my denominator so that we can subtract. If I look at my fraction here, 1 over 3, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 2. And then on this side, my 5 over 6, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by just the number 1. So we're going to multiply 2 times 1. This is going to be 2. And then minus 5 times 1. This is going to equal 5. So notice here I have 2 over 6 minus 5 over 6. I am not able to take 5/6 away from my 2/6. So this is where we do need to borrow from my whole number and then rewrite my fraction. So let's say up here we got 2 and 2/6 up here. And then down here we got 1 and 5/6 down here. So I'm going to borrow from my 2. This is going to become a 1. And I'm going to add 6 over 6 here to the fraction I have here so that we're able to subtract. So now you're going to have 1. This is your whole number here, which is what we have here. And then you're going to add your 2 plus your 6. That's going to be 8, and that's going to be over 6. Minus, here you have just your 1 and 5/6 here. So 1 and 5/6 here. And notice here, since I rewrote and I borrowed from my whole number and I rewrote my fraction, notice here, now I am able to subtract. I can now subtract 5/6 from 8/6. So 1 minus 1, that's going to equal 0. And then you have 8 over 6 minus 5 over 6. This is going to equal 3 over 6. And when I simplify this, you're going to get 1 over 2. So your final answer here is 1 over 2, because I divided my top and bottom by 3, and that's going to give us the 1 over 2. So let's say we were to expand what we have here. So let's say if I expand it, we're going to get 2 minus 1 plus 1 over 3 minus 5 over 6. I'm going to rewrite my whole number here and do 1 plus 2 over 2, because that's going to give me 2. And then we have here minus 1 plus 1 over 3 minus 5 over 6. So 1 minus 1, those are going to cancel out. So now we have 2 over 2 plus 1 over 3 minus 5 over 6. When you add 2 over 2 plus your 1 over 3, this is going to give you 8 over 6. And then you have 8 over 6 minus 5 over 6. And 8 over 6 minus 5 over 6, this is going to equal 3 over 6. And when you simplify, you're going to get 1 over 2. So your final answer here on this side, if you were to expand, you're also going to get 1 over 2 as well. Let's look at this example here, 6 and 1/2 minus 4 and 1/3. So we have 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3. My denominators are not the same, so I do need to find a common denominator. So 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3. List the multiples for my 2 and my 3. The least common multiple between the two is going to be the number 6. So that means I need to get 6 in my denominator so that we can subtract. Let's look at this fraction here, 1 over 2. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, 3. And then this fraction here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. Now we're going to multiply so that we can subtract. 3 times 1, this is 3. And then minus 1 times 2, this is 2. Now that my denominators are the same, 3 minus 2, this is going to be 1. And that's going to be over 6. So your answer here is going to be 1 over 6. And then when you subtract your whole numbers, your 6 minus 4, this is going to equal 2. So your answer here is 2 and 1/6. So let's say you wanted to expand this. So 6 minus 4 plus 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3. 6 minus 4 is 2, and then plus 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3. You're going to get 2 plus 1 over 6 as your answer. And then here you're going to do 2 and 1/6, and this is your final answer. Let's look at this example here. So notice when we look at our fractions, we have 1 over 5 minus 3 over 5. So 1 over 5 minus 3 over 5. By looking at this here, my denominators are the same, so that's good. But I am not able to take 3/5 from 1/5. So I do need to borrow from my whole number and rewrite my fraction. So this 6 here is going to become a 5. And I'm going to bring this one over here. And I'm going to add. So this is going to be 5 over 5. So now you're going to get 5 from your whole number here. And then you have 1 over 5 plus 5 over 5. This is going to equal 6 over 5. And then minus 2 and 3/5. Now that I rewrote my fraction, now we are able to subtract. So now we have 6 over 5 minus 3 over 5. So we do not have this anymore. So we have 6 over 5 minus 3 over 5. My denominators are the same, so I could just go ahead and subtract my numerator. So 6 minus 3, this is going to be 3, and that's going to be over 5. So your fraction here is 3 over 5. And then when you subtract your whole numbers, 5 minus 2, this is going to equal 3. So your answer here is 3 and 3/5. So let's say you wanted to expand your mixed numbers and your fractions here. So by looking at this, remember we do need to borrow because I cannot subtract 3/5 from 1/5. So I'm going to use my 6 here, the number here. So I'm going to borrow. So my 6 is going to become a 5. And then I'm going to add my 6 over 6 to this here because 6 over 6 equals 1. And then 5 plus 1 equals 6. So we just rewrote. That's all we did. Minus 2. And then plus 1 over 5. And then minus 3 over 5. So now we have 5 minus 2. This is going to equal 3. And then now we have plus 6 over 6 plus 1 over 5, and then minus 3 over 5. So now we have 3 plus, if you add all your fractions here together, you're going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 5, because our common denominator here is going to be the number 30. Here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 6. And here, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 6 again, because that's going to give me 30 in my denominator. Remember, when you are adding or subtracting, your denominators have to be the same. So for my denominators to be the same, that's what I'm going to multiply my top and bottom with. So then here we have 6 times 5. This is going to be 30. That's going to be over 30. Here you have 1 times 6. That's going to be 6 over 30. Here you also have 3 times 6. That's going to be 18 over 30. Now I'm going to combine all of my fractions here because my denominators are the same. So you have 3 plus 30 plus 6. That's going to be 36 over 30 minus 18 over 30. So then you're going to get 3 plus 36 minus 18, and that's going to be over 30. So your answer here, 3 and 18 over 30. However, when you simplify this 18 over 30 here, notice here that the number 6 goes into both. So 6 on top here, 6 here. So your numerator, you're going to get your 3 as your whole number. And then your numerator, you're going to get 3 over 5. So your final answer here is 3 3/5, which is what we also have here. So remember, if you want to expand your fractions, it's going to look like this. But if you do not need to expand and you just can solve it like this, then it's going to be right here on the right side. Let's look at this example here. So notice here, my fractions, we have 1 over 9 minus 5 over 9. Just by looking at this example here, I cannot subtract 5/9 from 1/9. So I do need to borrow from my whole number, and then we're going to rewrite my fraction. So this 8 here is going to become a 7. And then this 1 over 9, I'm going to add 9/9 to this because I borrowed from this 8 here and I brought it over to my fraction. So now your fraction here on this side is going to be 7 from your whole number here. And then you have 1 over 9 plus 9 over 9. This is going to be 10 over 9. And then minus your 6 and 5/9 here. Now we can subtract because now I have a larger number on top. I can take the smaller number from that. So that's perfect. We do not have this anymore. So now we have 10 over 9 minus 5 over 9. And because my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and subtract my numerator. So my numerator is just going to be 5, and that's going to be over 9. So you have that here, 5 over 9. And then when you subtract your whole numbers, 7 minus 6, that's going to equal 1. So your final answer here is 1 5/9. Now, let's say you were to expand. So let's expand our fractions and whole numbers here. So 8 minus 6 plus 1 over 9 minus 5 over 9. I'm going to rewrite my 8 here just like we did here. So this is going to be 7 plus 9 over 9 because that's going to give me 8. And then minus 6 plus 1 over 9 and then minus 5 over 9. So now we're going to subtract and add. So we have 7 minus 6. This is going to equal 1. So 1 plus 9 over 9 plus 1 over 9 and then minus 5 over 9. So we have 1 plus 9 plus 1. Since my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and just add my numerators. So 9 plus 1, this is going to be 10 over 9 minus 5 over 9. So you have 1 plus 10 minus 5. This is going to be 5 over 9. And when you combine, you're going to get 1 5/9. And this is your final answer here. Let's look at this example here. Notice here I have 5 over 8 minus 1 over 4. So my denominators are not the same. So that means I need to find a common denominator. We're going to list the multiples for my 8 and my 4. My least common multiple between the two fractions here is going to be the number 8. So that means I need to get 8 in my denominator. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1 because I already have 8 in my denominator. And then here I'll multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. Now we're going to multiply so that we can subtract. So 1 times 5, this is 5. 1 times 8, that's 8. And then 1 times 2, this is 2. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So now that my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and subtract my numerator. So 5 minus 2, this is going to be 3, and that's going to be over 8. So your fraction here, your answer is going to be 3 over 8. And then when you subtract your 5 minus 2, this is going to be 3. And since I cannot simplify any further, your final answer here is going to be 3 and 3/8. So now let's see what it looks like if you were to expand. So if we did 5 minus 2 plus 5 over 8 minus 1 over 4. So 5 minus 2, this is going to be 3. And then you have plus 5 over 8 minus 1 over 4. So you're going to get 3 plus 3 over 8 here. When you subtract these fractions here, remember you still have to find a common denominator. So I can multiply top and bottom here by the number 2 because that's going to give me 8 in my denominator. And then you'll get 5 over 8 minus 2 over 8. And that's where we got the 3 over 8 from. So now you have 3 and 3/8 as your answer when you add the 2. And this is your final answer as well. Remember, guys, you can also expand another way. If you don't want to expand like this, you can also expand like 5 plus 5 over 8 minus 2 and then minus 1 over 4. This will also get you the same answer. So 5 minus 2 is 3. And then 5 over 8 minus 1 over 4. This is going to give you the 3 over 8 here. And then when you combine everything, you'll also get 3 and 3/8 as well. So keep that in mind. If you want to solve like this, you can expand like this, or you can also expand like this here. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.